Hey there, I'm Corey with Ascend Smarter Intervention, where we make research-based reading intervention easy. And today I wanted to talk about lesson planning for our early readers. So specifically thinking about our kindergartners, our first graders, those readers who are really just getting used to the idea of letters and sounds and all the different pieces that we know are going to be so important for them to set a strong foundation for later reading. So one of the things that we always like to keep in mind here in our clinic is that we have to make sure we're hitting the 5 core components of literacy for every level. So this is all the way from our kindergarten and even pre-kindergarten students all the way up through high school. When we're designing lessons and lesson plans, we want to make sure we're targeting the 5 core components of literacy. So last week we talked about this curriculum map and how we use it specifically for lesson planning. And today I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into how we specifically do it for our kindergarten and first grade students. So again, if we're focusing on the 5 core components of literacy, we know that there are both a reading and a writing side to that coin. So when we're lesson planning, we want to make sure that we have activities designed to hit each of those different areas. So we are always going to start with our phonological awareness drills, any additional activities that we have, and then we're going to move on into phonics. So the alphabet arc is very specifically just taking letter magnets or tiles or flashcards or anything that you have and sorting those into a sequence A to Z. We like to do it in an arc just so that we can kind of save space on our magnet boards, but you can just sequence them in whatever way makes the most sense for you, words. And then we can move right into our letter review. So using that alphabet arc, we move right into our letter review where we're going to ask students to find specific letters, find the vowels, find letters in their name, just to have a chance to engage with those letters, specifically the ones that we've previously instructed or expect that they should know at this point in their sequence. Then we're going to move on to a new letter introduction, a blending activity, and I'm going to show you guys what all of this looks like. And then we move into what we call category word boxes. And so that's where we start to think about, once we've read the words, we need to think about what those words mean. It's very critical that we don't get so stuck in sounding words out that we forget that the other piece to that puzzle is knowing what it means and how it's going to come together in a sentence. So we move on to sorting those words into their categories. And then for fluency, we could be looking at fluency at the word level, sentence level, or passage level. Typically for our kindergarten and first grade students, we're really focused more on fluency at the word level and maybe at the sentence level. Now, we don't want to push the sentence level too hard, especially for our kindergartners, because developmentally they're still really working up to that. And so we're definitely going to give them the opportunity to tell us the words they know. We're providing the words that they don't, so that reading continues to be a really positive experience. Then we're going to look at sentence level diagramming. And what we mean by sentence level diagramming is really starting to recognize who or what, did what, why, when, or how in those sentences that we're reading. So again, I'll show you what that looks like. Then we move on to sight word reading. Now, it's important that we do focus on sight words at this kindergarten and first grade level because those words are going to be so critical to being able to read connected text or to be able to read sentences and short stories. They need to have some words that may be phonetically irregular, they don't sound out very well, and that they're just going to be high frequency words. And so we do teach high frequency words to our young students because we do see how critical that is to being able to read at that connected text level. Then as we shift into the writing section, it's going to be a lot of the same type of tasks, but just using that reverse side to the coin, the writing side. So again, phonological awareness. When we are segmenting syllables or words into syllables, like how many syllables in this word or how many sounds in this word, the reason that we're doing that is so that students can develop strong spelling skills. So we want to make sure that we're hitting that. Then the auditory drill is when we ask students, what letter says ah? What letter says I? What letters say k? And essentially, instead of asking them to tell us the sound, we're telling them the sound and asking them to find the letter. It's kind of the opposite side of asking what a letter says. Then we're going to look at some review spelling, so just being able to put together some just short words that they have started to learn or just patterns that they should know at this point. And then we want to be teaching a new pattern. But again, that pattern needs to match what we've been explicitly teaching. So I'll show you guys here in just a second what that looks like. Then we move into what we call a silly sentence creation, where we give students different words and we ask them to put those words into a sentence. So we might give them a who or a what, a did what, a why, when, or how, and they get to mix them up and make their own sentences. So that's really fun. Then we move into sentence dictation. So we'll tell a student a sentence, or at the kindergarten and first grade level, we might give them words on flashcards or on a piece of paper, and we want them to take those words and put it into a correct sentence for us. And then we're starting to look at caps. So we have a capital at the beginning, we have a punctuation, we have spacing. Of course, this is all developing. And so we need to make sure that we're making developmentally appropriate expectations of our students, but it is something that we want to be explicitly teaching. When we're looking at handwriting for kindergarten and first grade, we're really just focusing on letter formation, how that's coming together. Obviously, we're not working on paragraph level writing or anything too challenging like that. That's not developmentally appropriate. And then we want to look at sight word spelling. So I'm going to jump, like I said, real quick over here to be able to show you what that might look like. So for our students, one of the things that we do is we always want to make sure that we're working in a scope and sequence so that we're building the skills in order of a hierarchy of easier to harder, and that we're building on that. So one of the first things that we do in terms of our phonological awareness activity is starting to segment sentences. So how many words do we hear in the sentence? For example, the cat sat on the mat. We need to know the cat sat on the mat. We would have 6 marks in these little boxes, or 6 stamps, or 6 something fun in those boxes. And that's one of our most basic phonological awareness skills. So we always start right there with that. Then when we move into phonics, we want to make sure that we are giving students the opportunity to write the letter, say the letter, hear the letter, and that's what we use those 3 boxes right there for. Of course, if you don't have something like this, you could definitely just use a whiteboard or something similar there. C has 2 sounds technically, but we're going to focus on the k sound at this level. And so it's great if they recognize that it has 2 sounds, but again, we're going to focus on the k sound at this level. We're going to brainstorm some words. They can try and write it down, or you can write it on a board. And then we're going to practice blending. So in this case, we're giving students the sounds and we're just having them recognize k, a, t, cat. We're really just modeling that for them. We're not expecting them to be able to do that themselves. However, some of your students may be able to do that themselves, so definitely let them do that. Here we build words, so we love it when we have different opportunities to interact with, I don't know, magnets or just something a little bit different, a little bit more hands-on for your hands-on, more tactile learners right here. And then we always teach 2 letters in a sequence, so this is just our other letter. And then we start blending. So again, you can either have students that are going to give those to you, or you can help them out with letters that they don't know, but they need to start recognizing that each of those letters pairs with a sound, and that we have both the visual, the orthographic, that's what we're seeing, as well as the sound that we're hearing that comes together for reading. So that's our blending, that's our phonics. Then what we do here is we color in the words that start with a k. So they're going through, they're coloring all of those in, and then we have our students take these and cut them out and start making groups. This is our category word sort, where we might ask them to split those words into 2 separate groups or 3 separate groups and see what types of categories they can come up with. For example, it would be great if they came up with foods, because we were seeing some foods here. We're seeing some animals here. And maybe we're seeing some places or some things here. So you could say like a volcano is in a place. I'm going to see that. And so you just want to see how they start to sort those together. And you can talk about it because everybody might sort a little bit differently. And it's a great opportunity to really think about word meaning and how we're sorting those out. This is a great fluency activity for students in kindergarten or first grade, is just simply to find the letter. Again, this is really focusing on that orthographic knowledge where we're pairing print and we're recognizing that print has meaning. And so this is a really great one to how quickly can you find each of the letters without missing any. So that's another fun activity to try out. And then at this early kindergarten, first grade level, oftentimes our comprehension's actually starting at the word level. So here we actually have a comprehension task where they have to read the word and then they have to find the picture that matches that word. So it's good for both vocabulary building as well as comprehension at this early level. Words pair with pictures that we have in our minds. So that's that. And then again, we do focus on sight words at this early level because it is important that they know them. Some of these are phonetically regular, they could be sounded out, and some of them are not. For us, it's just more important that it's a high frequency word and they know that they're going to see these words often. We immediately take those sight words and move them into our sentence level reading so that they can see those sight words they just practiced in connected text, because that's why we're practicing them. We're going to try and keep these connected text as decodable as possible. However, we recognize that some of these words are not words they've been explicitly exposed to yet. And so always know that you can help students out with these pieces as well. But what we really want them to see is that each word we're saying is connected to those different pictures, those words that they're seeing right there when they're reading. So that's always exciting for students to start to get into connected text. And then finally, we move into what we call that auditory drill. So for example, what says k, you could have students write C or K. What says ah, they're writing an A. And we're just using it like this. This just keeps us nice and organized. But again, you don't need to have all of the materials. You don't need to have all of the different pieces. This is just helpful for us because it keeps us on track, on pace with our structured scope and sequence. And so just make sure that we've hit on everything. And then here's the sentence creation that we talked about in terms of really picking and having students understand who or what, did what, why, when, or how. And so what we've tried to do is, as much as possible, keep these decodable as well. However, there are some words like night and day and things like that that are not things that we've talked about. And so it's definitely okay to give students those words and have them practice putting those sentences together. And like we talked about writing, we want to be practicing writing at the letter level at this point. It's not too important that we're focusing too far beyond that, especially in kindergarten, but we do want them to start to see what does spacing feel like, making sure that they have all of that together. When we put our lesson plans together, we definitely want to make sure that we're keeping all of those things combined. And so what you're doing is you're really creating an opportunity to have really practice across all the domains of the 5 core components of literacy. You're practicing your phonological awareness and it's aligned to the letter that you're learning. You're practicing phonics, it's aligned to the letter pattern that you're learning. Vocabulary, fluency, comprehension, writing, it's all aligned. And if you can do that, then you can start to hit on all the targets that you're required to hit on without feeling all crazy over the place. So that's our tip in terms of how you're going to put together those early lesson plans. We'll go ahead and link up just a sample activity here so that you can see it, you can play around with it, you can make it yours, but that hopefully will help you keep everything nice and organized for your early readers and really just helping get the foundations that they need in place.